The first episode of Sonic Prime aired on Roblox today, and I thought I would go ahead and break it down, as well as talk about how it sets up the rest of the season, which I've already managed to get my hands on for this early review. Now, I personally did not love this Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, however, I would have to say it is probably going to be considered the best Sonic cartoon to this point by a lot of fans, and I can definitely see why. While some of the things I talk about will include my feelings on why I did not like it, it's mostly to share my perspective of Sonic growing up, and not to turn people off from what he has become, which is something quite interesting in Sonic Prime. Sonic Prime takes place in a sort of generic Sonic reboot universe, with Sonic and his friends foiling Eggman's plans. The first setting for this is the Green Hill Zone, popular from the first Sonic the Hedgehog game's first ever level. Sonic has been reimagined in recent years to be a franchise more about his team than just himself, turning him from a standalone character in a universe to part of a team of superheroes like in the Avengers. In addition to his usual sidekick Tails, Knuckles is officially part of his crew here instead of just getting mixed up in Sonic's story like in the earlier games. Amy is now part of Sonic's team as well, and even Rouge the Bat is, a choice I liked in theory, though didn't enjoy so much in execution because of the many differences to her character. The series opens with Sonic racing to help his friends, who are trying to stop Eggman from using a strange glowing item called the Paradox Prism. When Sonic accidentally shatters this Paradox Prism, he accidentally slips into an alternate reality, which from the trailer we know to be just one of many alternate realities that will be visited in this season of the show. Each reality is unique, but seems to be an alternate version of Sonic's own world if he had never existed. Because of that, what he mostly sees is how his friends would have reacted to not having met him, as well as to reacting to the different environments they end up in. In this episode, Sonic slips into a world where 5 Eggmans of various ages have somehow taken over the Green Hill Zone, using 1/5 of the Paradox Prism and turning it into an industrial dystopia. In many Sonic games, robots are powered by small animals, such as little birds called flickies, but in this world, all of the 5 Eggman's robots are powered by just the Paradox Prism, or rather, one shard of it that remains in this world. This has allowed them to take over the entire island, enslaving the animals. In this world, Amy has been roboticized, something common in various Sonic mythos, particularly the comics and some of the earlier TV shows, with Eggman trying to turn all of the animals like Sonic and his friends into robot servants. The other characters in this dimension have more unique portrayals, however, with Knuckles and Rouge seeming to be part of an underground rebellion based off the outfits we can see them in the trailer, and Tails being something of a cynical loner as we see in this first episode. The cynical Tails of this dimension has mostly been formed by the 5 Eggmans and the horrible dystopia that they created for all of the Green Hill Zone citizens, but Sonic feels that he can help this cynical Tails become the Tails he knows from his own dimension. The really great thing about this series is that they do go the extra mile for their action and adventure scenes. They aren't as fun as the 2D animations of the Sonic OVA in my opinion, but it's better than any other Sonic cartoons I've seen, where action and adventure can feel unfortunately slow for Sonic. And the benefit of this multi-dimensional show is it gives us a chance for the characters to battle who might never have a reason to in other adaptations or in the games. In this episode, for instance, Cynical Tails and Sonic have a pretty intense fight. It's well done and something I never knew I wanted. Suddenly, the whole season becomes not so much about fighting robots and Eggman, but the cool ways that they can have the main characters fight each other in different dimensions. Despite Sonic and Tails' conflict here, they inevitably put their differences aside once Tails realizes Sonic really has no ill will towards him, though this version of Tails still isn't 100% sure he can trust Sonic. The series as a whole explores 2 timelines, the one in the present with Sonic jumping through dimensions, and flashbacks to before the Paradox Prism shattered, establishing the current conflict among the main characters from Dimension 1. Episode 1 ends with us flashing back to the Green Hill Zone, with Sonic on his way to the Paradox Prism like we first saw at the beginning of the episode. However, this time we see that Shadow pops out of nowhere, setting up the next episode to be quite interesting. Now, from the trailers, we already have a pretty public view of what the other dimensions are in the show. Not just the industrialized dimension from episode 1, but also a pirate dimension and a wild island tribe dimension. You can already see in the trailers that Shadow's introduction will include quite an awesome fight, and I assure you that the fights in action will be even better when you watch it episode to episode. The multiple dimensions and flashes between the different timelines works in the series' favor, I think, and instead of one episode taking us to a brand new dimension each time, Sonic is able to travel back and forth, with the industrial dimension being the actual primary focus of the series, and other dimensions just being the little side adventures searching for more Paradox Prism shards. The story is mostly serious while managing to work in a lot of comedy, of course, but more serious than the previous 3D Sonic cartoon or any of the ones preceding it, really. While there are some other overarching stories to the previous Sonic series, Sonic Prime is serialized, one long adventure broken down into episodes, instead of each episode having an entirely self-contained plot and a very basic episodic formula. The season ends on a cliffhanger, and considering Netflix, it probably was ordered as the first part of a 2-part season order, so part 2 is probably already in the works, and I imagine it will come out sometime in 2022. Whether or not this will close out the story or just set it up for yet another volume is hard to say, and with how popular Sonic is becoming again, it could go either way. The first episode was 40 minutes long, but follow-up episodes are more traditional length and only 22 minutes long, though they still build into each other for bigger and longer stories. I really appreciate the seriousness they put into the story, and I really wish that I had a Sonic cartoon like this when I was a kid, as the best we got was the Sonic OVA, which was my absolute favorite adaptation, and the 2D animation really brought it to life. They weren't afraid to actually make you feel like you were in a Sonic level, but in 2D. Something 3D just doesn't quite capture for me, though here it still is really awesome how they use it for these characters' battles. There's a lot of fun continuity that ties the various video games into the show, but I would like to discuss that in my next video after the season airs to prevent spoiling anything else that might pop up. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it when we do our video breaking down differences between Sonic Prime Season 1 and the video games. See you guys then!